Welcome to the Boschcast with James Boschman and Denise Young, where we talk about Manitoba real estate and everything else that's on our minds.
Recording, and we're live.
Hi.
Denise,
Yes.
what has two butts and kills people?
What?
An assin. I love dad jokes. Thanks everybody for tuning in to episode 4 of the Boschcast with James and Denise, myself and Denise. And thanks for listening to our previous podcasts or watching them. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It helps with our business and it helps get this information out to the masses. And alternatively, if anybody has any questions, real estate related or otherwise, please send us them. Leave a comment under the video, or you can message us directly and we'll answer them on the next podcast. But yeah, this week, let's talk about, yesterday was the big day, January 25th, Bank of Canada, as predicted, 25 basis points. So I guess in the grand scheme, it could have been a lot worse. But old Tiff Macklem, the governor, Bank of Canada, came out along with the 25 basis point announcement. Also commented about how they're going to pause, which is kind of redundant in a way because it's what they've been doing this entire time. You know, he's just announcing it now using the word pause. And then he had a press conference after the announcement where reporters were asking him, about his decision, about the Bank of Canada's decision. And he was saying their pause is conditional upon, the CPI coming down, the core inflation coming down to where they need it to be. And they've kind of forecasted a 3% target now. So I think in the last episode, I talked about my predictions as them, moving that goalpost up from 2%. There's no way they're going to get to 2% this year. And that is the rhetoric that they're using now, is they're changing from 2% to 3%. But he said it's conditional. What is it conditional on? It's conditional on, he's saying, inflation coming down, but there are caveats to that, because he said that if energy prices continue to rise, that could have an impact that's out of the Bank of Canada's control. And, the reality is that gas prices just went up. So they were at like 143.9, and today going around everywhere, it's 155.9, right?
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of like closures happening, like oil refineries and stuff are closing on the West Coast, and there's some shutdowns, and then, we've got the war and all that kind of stuff. But, it's really uncertain as to what's going to happen. If I was a betting man, I would still say that, there's kind of two things. If Tiff Macklem didn't use the wording pause, I think that we might be in a little bit of a better position, because my thinking is, when you come out and you tell the entire world, the entire country, that, okay, we're pausing, that sends a signal that we are not going to raise rates anytime in the short term. Conditional, right? But that sends a huge signal to all the markets that, okay, well, rate hikes are done now, so let's go out and spend,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Which is going to have the reverse effect. I think it's going to cause inflation to stick around longer and be more stagnant. So I find it really weird that they had to use that wording. Pause, you can pause without telling people. I think it would have a much better effect. They call it jawboning. It's when you use less words and you create a vagueness in the market, so much so that people are unsure of what's going to happen, and the lack of confidence creates a fear in the market that's like that itself stops excessive spending, and it stops excessive buying and all this kind of stuff, right? But when you use words that send signals, I don't know, it's just really, it's either, again, an example of terrible monetary policy, or there's something else at play. So, but I still think we are in a climate where fixed rates can come down. And if we're all going back to normal, like if our market is going back to this balanced market because, COVID isn't really impacting, we're not in a pandemic, and the Bank of Canada and the government's trying to get us back to like the normal times pre-COVID.
Right.
Let's just think about it. 2019's real estate market was a relatively balanced market. So if we think about all that, then we're kind of back to the emotional normal market where December, January are quite slow. And then things pick up again, February, March, right?
Yeah.
So if we're back into this like spring market thinking, I think that depends on what happens with the bond market, but I think that banks have a little bit more play now to be more negotiable with the rates between lenders. And usually in a normal market, we see like that happen in the spring market because they want to stimulate mortgage applications. So my thinking is that by the spring, could be as quick as, February, maybe March. I think those rates are still coming down. I think the fixed rates are coming down, which is going to stimulate things again. But yeah, I mean, the Bank of Canada is basically saying, we're pinching people and we're doing everything we can to make sure people feel pain. But there are other things, I guess, that are out of their control, which, you can't really argue. But, I think there's going to be an impact of these, what was that, number 8, rate hike number 8. We could be bracing for impact for something here. But yeah, so if we're going back into balanced market territory, that means that more listings are likely to come online in the next month.
Yeah.
And if there's more competition, it means that realtors and sellers are going to be pulling out all the stops again to get houses sold. And that means agents have to work again, meaning open houses, and whereas in the last couple of years, we haven't really had to do, I mean, shouldn't say we haven't had to do open houses, but
we always do them. But yeah, we've seen a lot of realtors stop doing them
because, you put a for sale sign up on Monday and you have an offer date, and what's the sense of having an open house because there's going to be hundreds of people through the open house and it's going to sell in a bidding war anyway. So
whether or not they had the open house, in the spring we had so many showings, and with all the rules around letting people, only so many people in the house at a time and stuff, it was a pain to do open houses.
COVID regulations and everything.
And now we don't have to
so
deal
many
with
people
that,
in the house. Yeah. So if we're going back to normal times, the pre-pandemic times, then I think, we're going to start. I mean, we're already doing open houses like every weekend. And
Yeah.
so I am still like under the impression that buyers enter markets in waves. And especially in our market where it's very seasonal. And so
Right.
come February, I know for a fact there are a lot of people out there that are just starting the process and they're getting their pre-approvals, whether they're first-time buyers or they're, thinking about what their existing house can sell for so that they know what to work with when they go to buy something, and they're talking to the bank and they're doing all that kind of stuff. Because the reality is a lot of refis are coming up too. So people are maybe thinking, well, maybe I should take advantage of selling my home now instead of refining, and then I'll go buy something else, right? And it's kind of pushing them in that direction. So I think that, a lot of buyers are people in general, there's a stir, and I think buyers are entering the market or will be entering the market very shortly. And there's going to be a lot of buyers going to open houses again.
Right.
And so I think it's kind of important to talk about, open houses, the protocols that, normally when we're listing a property, we have certain things that we like to talk about with our sellers about open houses. I personally am a big proponent of open houses. Some sellers, they just can't do them or they're not comfortable doing them, and we kind of have to respect that decision. They have their pros and cons, not just for sellers, but for buyers as well. And so, I'm just thinking, first time home buyer, like, they're probably like, like a little fish floundering in the water. What do I do now? And
yeah, let's go to an open house.
Let's go check out some open houses. Let's see what's out there, right? So, what are some things that buyers should know getting into the market, or if they're just like, even if they're not first-time buyers, maybe they're, maybe they have a house to sell and they just want to see what's out there.
Right.
What are some things that buyers should know when looking at going to open houses? And then alternatively, what are some things that sellers should know about open houses? Because the reality is that, despite what other agents may say, they do work, but they have to be done properly. And, but it is important to set expectations ahead of time with both buyers and sellers. So, so what are some things that buyers should know with going?
Well, I would say one of the important things that buyers should know is it's a great way to meet realtors. So if you don't have a realtor of your own yet, you get a chance to meet different ones and ask them questions and kind of get to know the different ways that they might work with you as a buyer, and just like how comfortable you are talking to them, because that's a really important aspect of who you should be hiring, right? Like you need to be able to have honest conversations, and
it has to be a good fit. The relationship
it has to be a good fit. Yeah, exactly. I also think like it's important to know that at some open houses, you're going to have to give your information, and whether that's your realtor's name and number so that people can keep track of, like the realtor that's there has to protect themselves and the property. So many realtors will ask for information to keep track of who's been in the house. That way, if something's missing, something's broken, something's spilt, or any problems occur, there's a list of people who have been there.
Yeah. I always tell my buyer clients, if I'm having a buyer consultation, especially with first-time home buyers, it's like, go to open houses, check everything out, see what's out there, and then if you really like something, then call me and then we'll book a private showing and go and look at it in person. But just know when you're going into open houses, you'll likely have to give out info, and you'll likely be preyed upon, because there are some, vultures out there in the industry for sure.
Yeah, they don't care that you have a realtor.
They don't care. No. So if you have a relationship with a realtor that you know, like, and trust, and you like to work with throughout the process of buying, make sure that you are forward with that. I know sometimes it can be kind of awkward, but just tell them, I'm working with so and so, and then that agent knows to stop bugging you. I mean, there still are some.
Yeah, and they probably won't take the rest of your information at that point, because they can
Right.
call your realtor and say, "Hey, your client came through my open
Exactly.
house, and now this is whatever."
Yeah, and we get it all the time. I mean, specifically because we do a lot of new home construction, and we're
Right.
sitting in show homes and open houses. A lot of times people, the house is totally available. I mean, it's vacant. Nobody's living there yet. It's brand new. So buyers feel a little bit more, confident to go and check out those houses, right? So sometimes, we'll get calls, like we'll ask them, are you working with somebody? And sometimes people are a little bit apprehensive. And sometimes people are like very straightforward, and they'll be like, yeah, we're working with so-and-so. And then what we do is we'll phone that realtor and say, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up, your clients came through, blah, blah, blah. Just let me know if you have any questions, or if your clients have any more information we can help them with. But yeah, so if you're a buyer, if the open house is hosted by a realtor, which chances are most of them are, just let them know if you have a realtor to let them know that you have a realtor. And the great thing about going to open houses, like I said, I think open houses are great to check out, is that it gives you an opportunity to see the house for an additional time. Like for a lot of times my buyer clients will go to an open house first, and then they'll call and they'll say, we really want to take a look at this place. And then we'll book a showing, and then we'll go in. But oftentimes it's the reverse, where we're looking at a whole bunch of different properties in a day, and things can get really confusing when you're looking at like 5 or 6 properties in a day. And so sometimes having an opportunity to go back to the open house with friends or family, people that you trust to give you, good opinions or second opinions, they'll have an opportunity to look at it as well. But then you have an opportunity to look at it for a second time.
Right.
And there's no real, I mean, there's kind of a deadline, because these open houses are like typically 2 or 3 hours long. There's a window, but you don't have to feel pressured. Okay, we booked a showing for 4:30. You have to be there for 4:30. The showing is 30 minutes long or an hour long, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This way you can kind of go in and, take a really good look, really hard look at everything, the area, the yard, the basement, everything. And you might get some additional nuggets or information that, we weren't privy to, because the reality is that when we book showings, sometimes we get information, but a lot of times we don't until we actually ask or call the listing agent. So this might be a way for you to get it straight from the horse's mouth from the listing agent.
Yeah. The downside to going to an open house as a buyer is sometimes there is a lot of traffic, and it can create a sense of urgency, which is great for the seller.
Yeah.
But it could be a negative for a buyer who, you don't know how many of those people there can actually qualify to buy the house, or are just being nosy neighbors or whatnot. But so like it can create a sense of urgency that may not actually be necessary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, sometimes when we're looking at houses, like outside of the open house, if we book showings, there are a lot of times, especially now that the COVID rules and regulations have really relaxed, where, chances are we might be in the property with another realtor.
Right.
Because, showings are oftentimes double booked. And I know how uncomfortable that can be. Sometimes for buyers, it's like, you got to be careful with what you really say or what you really feel about it. You kind of want to keep your cards close sometimes. And it sometimes can feel that way too at an open house. So, Yeah, just don't feel pressure, don't feel any of that. Just, you're there to just like look at the property and get a feel for everything, get a feel for the area, um, get a feel for the things that if you were to purchase that property, you can't change later on. So without selling it. So for sellers, I know, oftentimes we have conversations with seller clients that are apprehensive about having open houses because they've heard, you know, my friend's friends, whatever, had stuff stolen or their cushions were moved or, whatever.
Yeah.
We always have protocols in place where we go through the list of things and how we do an open house when we're doing open houses to protect the seller, protect ourselves. And then we make recommendations as to what the seller should do to make sure that, those worst case scenario things don't happen to them. It's never, I don't think, never happened in my career so far. I don't think it's happened in yours either, where, we're doing an open house and people come in and, rob the place or whatever. But there have been instances where, and stories in the industry from, maybe agents who don't take the same precaution and,
or maybe they do and stuff has just happened.
Yeah. So, but it's important to, for us to set expectations with sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Big things are the prep that they should do before and after an open house. Make sure things are accessible for people. You want to make sure that it's easy for somebody to get into something.
Like the furnace filter or the electrical panel.
Yeah. Don't make it so that they have to
climb over your bed,
climb over stuff to get to stuff, right? Because people at an open house, like, the reality is there's going to be a lot of tire kickers and there's going to be a lot of people from the area that are opinionated, but there's also going to be a lot of real serious buyers who are coming through for that second look.
Who will still listen to the nosy neighbor who has an opinion.
Right. And, you want to they're going to be looking at your windows. They're going to be looking at, the furnace. They're going to be looking at your electrical panel. They're going to be looking at the bones.
Mm-hmm.
And so just make sure things are accessible that way. And then when it comes to valuables, like if you have items in your home, it could be monetary value or it could be sentimental value. If it's really, really important, put it in a safe or take it with you somewhere. Don't leave stuff out, passports, cash, change, credit cards, jewelry. Everybody's got that junk.
Grandma's antique vase or her ashes.
Yeah. You don't want to leave grandma's ashes or your dog's ashes or something out for people to accidentally, not that people necessarily steal it, but if they bump into it and smash it all over the place, well, now you got a dust storm, right?
That's not something someone can replace.
Yeah. So if it's valuable, put it away. Do something with it. Again, it's never happened to us, but we try to take all the precautions that we can just to eliminate all liabilities.
I'd say the worst thing that's happened to me during an open house is when Scentsy became really popular. And I know it still is, but now I'm really allergic to that stuff, so I can't use it. But I had bought a lot of Scentsy from one of my clients and I was going to use them at open houses. And they are like a little pot. Yeah. And I bought the ones that plug into the wall like directly. They were like almost like a Glade plug-in.
Yeah.
But they smelt better. And they have like wax in the top.
Oh yeah.
Like that melts. And in the base, I had plugged one in the basement. And when I went to close up, the one in the basement had been spilled. And I'm like, I don't know how you could spill it. Cause like you literally have to unplug it to spill it.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like obviously someone who had attended the open house unplugged it and spilt it onto the carpet.
Oh, geez.
Right. So now I have an issue I have to deal with. Right.
Yeah.
We were able to get it all off the carpet. There's like a million YouTube videos on how to get this wax off the carpet. But
yeah.
But, you know, now there's an issue. So, you know, I never use them again.
Yeah.
So that was the end of that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we do our jobs as realtors as best as we can
For sure.
To make sure that everything's going to be, you know, left the way it was.
But we can't be in every room, and
right.
You have multiple people coming in at a time. So you can't just like,
yeah,
it would be great if we could follow everyone around, but you can't.
Our jobs are to showcase the features and benefits of that property that people may not necessarily see for themselves on the listing or in a showing. Like there's always those like je ne sais quoi things, those little things that you can't really articulate, extra stuff. Yeah. Those are the things that really sell that home. So that's why I think,
and that's why an open house is beneficial.
That's why they're super beneficial.
Yeah.
But you know, as a seller, do the things, prep the house so that you're not dealing with the issues. You're not dealing with thefts and stuff like that. And then when you get home, like after an open house is done, if there's a backyard, if there's gates, if there's a garage door, if there's an overhead door, you know, stuff like that, like we'll make sure to the best of our ability that that stuff is closed and locked and whatever. But when you come home, do the same thing. Don't just assume that everything is like tickety-boo and back to the way it was. Because, you know, there might be something that's missed, like a window crank or like a window lock that's not locked. And then
because people try the windows and might leave it open.
Right.
Or someone might open it thinking they might come back later.
Yeah.
Not that I've ever had it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, I think, you know, just to touch on sellers, I've had it before where I've gone into talk to somebody about selling their house and they've said, you know, we've been told through other realtors that open houses are a waste of time.
It's just going to be the neighbors.
Yeah, it's just going to be the neighbors. We hear it often. Now, I would say that if we're in the business of making sure that your home is sold for the max price with the least amount of headaches, I think you need to make that house as accessible to the market as possible. You don't want to leave any stone unturned, you know? So do the open house and do it properly. Make sure that your realtor is doing it properly, because if it's done intentionally with purpose and that agent is proactive with it, I have had on multiple occasions where those nosy neighbors come out and I chat them up, and, you know, after the open house, I'm getting a phone call from that nosy neighbor's grandkid or nephew or whatever. And they're like, hey, my so-and-so came to check out the open house. We're moving back from Calgary, or we're moving back from wherever.
Yeah.
We're relocating. And we've always wanted to live close to grandma and grandpa or close to mom and dad.
Yeah, we love that area.
Can you tell us more about the property? And they end up freaking buying it.
Yeah.
So if you know, seem to have it in your mind that they're not good, it's all in how they're done. And I would say that, you know, don't leave that off the table just because somebody said something, because, you know, they can be really beneficial. It can be a great opportunity, like I said, for somebody's parents to come that maybe they're working out of town and they can't make it, or somebody who is unrepresented, who, you know,
maybe they haven't even gone to the bank yet to get
exactly
approved. So there's not a realtor that wants to show it to them.
Right. And that's where we can come in. They can interview us. They can talk to us. We can set them up with our people who we know, like, and trust. in the industry, mortgage brokers, professionals,
Yeah.
get them pre-qualified, get them
Pre-qualified.
pre-approved,
Yeah.
and ultimately sell them the house. So, yeah, I would say if you have someone out there, don't want to bash other realtors, but if you have somebody that's telling you it's not a good idea, I would second guess that. But yeah, so speaking of showings and all that kind of stuff, maybe let's get into your story this week.
My story this week.
Yeah.
So, story time. Events for Saturday. Oh my goodness, what's happening?
4:15 p.m. to 5:15.
AI.
I know.
It's come alive.
My calendar's never done that before.
No worries.
I'm like, whoa. Okay, so my story has a lot to do with not just like what to do with your pets during open houses, but also like during showings.
Mm-hmm.
I find that you know, when we're talking about what to do when you're moving,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people talk about pets in regard to the actual move, and you know, like, you know, make sure that they're in their crate and safe while the movers are in and out and stuff like that, right? But my story has a lot to do with during showings, because it can be a really stressful time for pets, and we tend to always think about taking our dogs out, you know, drop them off at daycare at grandma's house or whatever, but unfortunately, we think our cats are super independent and aloof and don't care.
Yeah.
But so this story kind of illustrates how much they can be stressed out. And, you know, if we actually look at some of the other stories besides this one, you know, cats tend to get sick during showings because they are stressed out.
Or I'm there petting them.
Right, exactly. But I mean, they were saying that one of their cats were sick, and maybe that's why. Maybe because of all the showings, right? I don't know their situation, but
again,
I know I've had my own clients complain that after a few showings, their cat started getting sick, right?
Yeah.
And it's usually the stress of having people in their house.
For sure.
Yeah. And but yeah, so this one day I was showing houses, and it was during I want to say it was like around like 2012 when the market was really crazy, and there was lots of tons of showings, and lots of the bidding wars were happening at that time. And it was I had gone to show a little house in Transcona, and it was in a really good price range, super popular price range. So they had probably, I think there was like 40 cards already on the countertop, and it had only been on the market for like 2.5 days.
Wow.
Right. So tons of people in this house so far.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we come in, and the cat comes and greets us right away, and rubbing up against our legs. And, you know, I have a little bit of allergies, so I tend to not pet them and whatever, but I'll let them rub on me. And the people I was with, they're huge cat people. So she's like petting him and massaging him and everything. And, you know, super nice cat. And anyway, so we go on to look at the house, and going from room to room, and the cat's like kind of following us around. And you know, we go into the basement, and when we were in the basement, the cat actually didn't come all the way downstairs. He just sat on the top of the stairs and kind of watched us.
Oh yeah.
And so as we were finishing up in the basement, I went to go up the stairs, and I tend to go first. It's just how I kind of do things most of the time, right? And the cat, I guess, felt very offended and decided to jump on my face.
Oh my God.
And just was like, ah!
Like lunged at you?
And he got his tooth right through my lip.
Oh my God.
I had a hole and scratches and everything, bled like crazy. And
wow.
My client had grabbed the cat and got the cat off me. And I went upstairs to find some like paper towels and stuff like that. And I'm shaking because like, whoa, you know, the adrenaline just kind of makes you shaking and everything. And my clients were really upset and wanted to drive me home and everything. But I wasn't that far from home. I was actually pretty close to home at that point in the day. And it was our last showing of the day.
Oh, yeah.
So I had headed home. I was still bleeding and stuff. So my husband called like Health Links, and we found out that like with a cat bite, because it was the tooth that had gone through my lip, the cat bite, you actually have to go to the hospital like immediately.
Yeah, cats' mouths are like the most like germ-ridden things alive.
Yeah. And honestly, I was like, oh my God, we have to go to the hospital. This is going to take forever and blah, blah, blah. Right. Like our healthcare isn't great. So I go to the hospital. I think I just went to Concordia, and it was the fastest I've ever been, because as soon as you say I got bit by a cat, they had you in the room. I had a tetanus shot within 10 minutes and I was out the door within 30.
Holy crap.
With a prescription for antibiotics. The downside, well, there was lots of downsides, but the downside for the cat is because now that I've talked to Health Links and the hospital, they're taking like the information of the where it happened and everything, and now this cat's being put into quarantine.
Oh gosh.
Right? So like this cat's already super stressed out from having had 40 showings in his house, and now he has to be put in quarantine.
Oh man.
Right? So I'm just saying, like, it's like we laugh about it nowadays, like that it happened, you know. My clients like to joke about I slayed the tiger or whatever. But I didn't slay anybody.
Yeah.
but yeah, like it was just such a stressful situation for that cat, and had, the owner, instead of leaving the cat there all day, had taken it somewhere else. Yes, that would be stressful too, but it probably wouldn't be as stressful as having so many people coming on his territory.
Yeah.
Right. So, we're very good at like not leaving a dog there.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, so many people, like, there, there's cat people and dog people, right?
Yeah.
And but I feel like there are so many people that have cats that just should not have them, because they think that, oh, my cats are obviously more independent than a dog. A dog is like having a child, and they are definitely more independent, but they still
need care.
Yeah, they still need care. And like, can you imagine being that small and having random strangers like prancing around your house? And like, that would be terrifying.
And cats are way more territorial than dogs are.
Yeah.
So like, that is their house. You're just allowed to live there.
Yeah.
And like, I do find, like, when I talk to sellers that have moved, like clients that have moved, they've sold the house. Like I had this little listing I had in St. Mattel. This cat was so territorial. We couldn't get it to stay wherever, like, because it was an outdoor cat. Like, nowadays cats are mostly kept indoors, but back then that cat was left outside a lot, and she loved being outside. But the downside to that is they were staying on in Niagara Park, and my clients lived in Old St. Mattel when I had their house listed, right?
Yeah.
And that cat showed up at the open house.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be over in Niagara Park, right? And calling my clients, right? Your cat came anyway. When they moved to a house on 206 in the country, and the new buyer called me. Their cat came like in St. Mattel. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, twice it happened actually.
What?
Yeah, they had to force the cat to stay indoors for like pretty much the rest of his life, because he just kept going back to St. Mattel.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I've definitely heard of that. Stories
cats
like that
are
too.
Very territorial. That's their house, and they want that. They don't want to move. So it's really difficult to make it so that your cat's comfortable and not like attacking people or puking all over your floor or whatever, right? So you do have to, there's a lot of great places. I know, like, I talked about that company, Perfect Paws, that does my dog grooming. They also have Cat's Cradle.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's like a really nice boarding with
Oh.
cats, right? Like,
Oh, really?
and it's a separate building on a different side of their property than where all the dogs are. So it's not like
Wow.
the cats aren't getting stressed out by listening to all the dog barking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are things that, like, I know a lot of people, they don't think about when they have cats.
Yeah.
But they definitely should, to avoid situations like that.
Yeah. Because now the poor cat had to go into quarantine,
Yeah.
and I mean that's not fun for anybody. Like now, I felt so bad about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure the seller didn't feel great about it either. That was his pet, right?
I know.
Like that's his cat.
I know. Yeah, and there's lots of instances where, we'll book showings for our buyer clients, and oftentimes the listing agents will send us a message saying, just to let you know there's a cat on the property, please don't let it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, my job is to like show this property to my clients. I don't want to be wrangling cats. I'll pet the
Especially
cat.
now that I'm scared of them.
Yeah. I like meeting new cats. I'm always meeting new ones, and it just reconfirms for me like how much better our cats are than cats.
But when I'm in a house and there's a cat sitting on a ledge up high or on the stairs, I'm like,
yeah. Again, it goes back to, accessibility.
Yeah.
Make your house accessible to
and not
all.
Everybody is a cat person. Right.
So some people are definitely allergic.
And some of them are very allergic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
so it does make there is a lot of positives for taking the cat somewhere. And, I've had some awesome clients that, every time there's a showing, they go home and pick up the cat just like you would if you had a dog.
Yeah.
And take the cat for a little ride in the car while someone's looking.
Or if you're selling, I've had many times where sellers, like if it's a younger couple and maybe, the wife's parents live, like grandma and grandpa live close by or something like that. Like,
take the cat over there.
Exactly. See if you can leave the cat with a friend or a family member or something like that.
Not everybody can afford boarding.
Yeah, guaranteed be way less stressful on that animal than having, people stomping around in the house and the cat's like, who the hell is this? And oftentimes because they're scared, that's why they run out of the house. And then, and then you got these owners that come home and their cats have run away, and that's not what we want either. So but no, that's a crazy story. Holy shit. So our topic of the week. Last week we talked about the differences between market value, appraised value, tax assessed value, and I kind of mentioned, at the end, the dangers of overpricing. It's important to price it right, especially when we're in a market like we are right now, where it's kind of in flux, especially with interest rates and stuff like that. We're definitely moved into a more balanced market, like I mentioned. Again, don't want to bash agents, but when things are in flux, when markets change, the reality is real estate, our industry was absolutely ripping over the last couple of years, and a lot of agents entered the market. It created a lot of competition and created a lot of desperation, especially now that the market has shifted. And desperation will make you do really silly things, including telling a seller exactly what they want to hear or overpricing a listing just to buy the listing.
Just to get the signature on the paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you and I, we know agents, I'm not going to name any names. We know agents that's their whole business model is, what do you want for your house? And then it's like, okay, sign here, just because they're in the listing collection service, and the more they deal in the law of, averages. So
and they can pick up buyers and sell them other houses.
Right. And it's actually so terrible, not just for our industry, but for that seller, for that client, because you're not doing that person any favors, you know? And oftentimes these people, they'll go into, like, these realtors, they'll go into the listing appointment and they'll either ask, well, what do you want for it? Okay, that sounds good. Sign the contract. Or they'll just throw out a number right there. I've had so many times where I've gone to a listing appointment and the sellers are like, well, so what do you think? And I will never, no matter how confident I am, the exact same property could sell next door, spitting image, same features and benefits. I might give them a range, but that range is going to be pretty wide.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, don't hold me to it, because
I haven't done my homework on your specific house.
Absolutely. It's so important to do your homework. There's so much more to price.
Yeah, the market changes every day.
Market changes every day. Not only does it change in the macro, as we've been talking about with all the interest rates and everything, but Winnipeg is a very hyper-local, hypersensitive market. So you could pick up your house and move it across the street, and now its value is either gone way up or gone way down. Right. So, it's so important that you're not just like shooting from the hip with pricing. And so I feel like setting expectations is really important. But yeah, so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit. Overpricing and the dangers and what can happen if you say, you know what, I'm going to go with the guy who told me exactly what I want to hear. Or I'm just going to, just list it for what I want to list it for, sell it for what I want to sell it for, or else, I'll find somebody who does, because the reality is there's tons of realtors in Manitoba and somebody will take it, right? There's a sucker born every minute. And yeah, so we can kind of go through that. I get all fired up when I talk about this kind of stuff because, it really irks me when we are getting calls to do market evaluations for people and we're trying to work in their best interest and we're competing for the listing against somebody who is not. And they're not because they're telling them that exactly what they want to hear.
Right. Instead of what they need to hear.
Yeah. So I would say, what I always say is that we need to work together, myself and the seller, to come up with a strategy, with a plan. We got to look at the big picture. We got to look at what's happening in the market at that current time. Mm-hmm. And that means like what else is for sale in your immediate area, because that will tell us that especially if we're in a balanced market, what those buyers are also going to be looking at. And sometimes I will often, if there is inventory that's actively for sale in the immediate area at the time that our listing is coming live on MLS, I'll book a preview showing. I've even had it where I've shown other listings to my seller clients,
right?
So that we can see in person, how does that house stack up, because the reality is we don't want to be winning a price. We don't want to be competing on this price war. We want to try to prove value to the customer instead of having buyers grind us down.
Right.
So we have to look at everything that's active in the area, everything that's sold in the area, to get a sense of what the demographic is that's going to be buying that listing.
Yeah. I also like to show my clients what has expired in the area.
Yeah. That's really important. Because that is like proof that, that,
not selling.
Yeah. And why isn't it selling? Is there something wrong? It's either something wrong with the house or it's overpriced.
Right.
The reality is there's a lot of psychology that goes into selling your home. You have to understand the buyer and you have to understand, who's going to be buying that property. When you list a property, if you take let's try my price approach, or let's go higher approach and see what happens. The one of the dangers with doing that is, number one, you're not going to get showings, and you're not going to get the feedback that you need from those showings to tell you about your property.
Mm.
And by the time that you finally realize it's too late and you've missed the mark, you want it. The purpose of pricing appropriately for the market is, and timing and all that kind of stuff, is you want to try to, you want to try to get all of that initial interest in the beginning, because you can't get that later on after you've done a price reduction. Overpricing a property will waste that interest, and it will kill momentum, and that you're not going to be able to get back when it comes to finally doing a price reduction.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it in the past where a listing, days on market drags out. The seller's really firm on price. They don't want to reduce price. They're not getting showings, or they are getting showings, but the feedback is telling them that they should be reducing price, but they don't want to. The listing expires, and then you relist it at a new price, maybe freshen it up a little bit with new pictures, new videos,
Mm-hmm.
and you start getting that action again. But that's just proof of the pricing right to begin with is so important.
Exactly.
Because why go through all of that? Why waste 60 days on market? Why waste 90 days on market? You're not doing anybody any favors. So I like to think about pricing as, when I go to the bakery department at my local Sobeys, the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for bread or buns that are baked that day. And, I avoid the stale bread, right? I avoid
Right.
the buns that are, everybody wants the stuff that's fresh.
Yeah.
And that's just the psychology and the mentality of a buyer. If it's a day old, well, I mean, obviously listing houses are different than bread, but if it's day old bread, why would you buy that when you can buy the fresh bread? So oftentimes bakeries have to give the stuff away, right? And they make other
The
stuff.
value is lower.
The value's lower. You don't want people to think that there's something wrong with it. If you overprice it and you're not proactive with the pricing, like our job is, I'll be honest, like sometimes it is hard to price.
For sure.
And
Some
maybe,
houses are very unique.
yeah, if it's a very unique property, especially rural properties.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, you kind of have to have a range, and then
Some trial and error.
some trial and error. But it's so important to be proactive.
Yeah,
You can't
absolutely. And that's partly why I always tell people you need to really be able to have those conversations with your realtor. And if your realtor's coming in there and telling you all the things you want to hear, are they going to be able to have that tough conversation if there needs to be a price adjustment?
Yeah.
Right?
Probably not.
And you need a realtor that's going to be able to say, you know what? I think I made a mistake. I think we should have, or the market has changed.
Yeah.
And right, because it's not always a mistake. Sometimes the market has shifted just as you listed it.
Yeah.
Right. So
the hard conversations are
Mm-hmm.
important. The other thing, with overpricing is that, we work with a lot of buyers, and I've been in situations where I'm showing a house to a buyer client, and we know that it's been on market for 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's offers as received. I phone the listing agent. Hey, why is this thing still sitting? Oh, well, the right buyer hasn't come along yet. It's like, well, no, the price is wrong. Right. But the buyers, they're very emotional. They don't want to offend people. So it's hard for me as a buyer's agent to try to bridge that gap to convince them, hey, they're open to an offer.
Yeah,
And they've
let's
made it
write
explicitly clear that they're willing and receptive to look at all offers. So let's write something.
something.
You know, number one, the buyer's going to think, well, am I wasting my time? You know, I don't really want to go through all this emotional stress if it means that I'm going to, you know, like if they're just going to say no, because then you have to have that conversation. Well, it's likely that we're going to get a counter offer. And then they're like, I don't know if I want to play that game, you know, I just want to go in with my price and, you know, feel confident. Had that seller priced it well, or to begin with, it had been sold, or if they had, you know, been proactive with, or the realtor proactive with having those hard conversations of, okay, everything else is selling around you and your house is only helping to sell other houses. We're overpriced. We need to do something to stimulate the activity again. You know, you're not doing yourself any favors. And you know, buyers are, you know, they're like a normal home buyer is going to be purchasing a property to live in. They're not like a house flipper. They're not like in the business of, you know, lowballing, you know,
Right.
they're not wholesalers. These guys, they're heartless. They'll go out, you know, throw shit at the wall to see if it sticks. If it doesn't, they're going to move on to the next one. A normal house buyer isn't like that. So you can't expect for them to just, oh, well, write me an offer if you like it.
Yeah.
You know, if you had it priced more appropriately, maybe they would write you that offer. And the reality is there's always another house that is going to be priced more appropriately. There's always other fish in the sea. So why would that buyer, you know, waste time and emotions negotiating when, you know, another property is right around the corner? So those are just some examples of, you know, why it's dangerous to overprice your property. And, you know, our job as listing agents is to work together with you to come up with a strategy, to come up with a plan based on the full macro picture. You know, and every property is so different, and you know, you can't just paint them all with the same brush. The one thing that I like to say is when it comes to pricing, we need to work together as a team, the seller and us. And it's not, you know, me versus you on price. It's us versus the market. And we need to be diligent, you know, especially when we're going into a more balanced market now. Last couple of years, you know, you throw the duct tape for sale sign outside, you have an offer date next Monday, you get 10 offers, you know, easy. But, you know, that's just not the way it is anymore.
No.
But yeah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think we hit most of it.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so we'll finish this thing off, and we will give some flowers to some local businesses that we love, just like we do every week. And yeah, you take it from here.
Okay, well, I'm gonna shout out to Woof and Wags this week. They are a doggy daycare. They also do grooming, and they probably do other stuff, but those are the two things I've used there. They have like a Sunday fun day for small dogs on Sundays, obviously, which my girls love because it's just the afternoon. So then they're pooped, but they're not extremely tired. Like yesterday, they were there for the full day, and they pretty much slept all night last night and all day today. Nice. You know, it just poops them right out. But they have lots of fun. And I find they call them the aunties and uncles, all the people that work there, and they give them lots of cuddles and love. And nice. So just a great place to send them. And they have like the different areas for different size dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah, we really love it. So we know that our little dogs are only going to be playing with other little dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then my other one is a new business, actually. Oh. They opened up, I think, right before Christmas. They're called Georgina's Sweets and Boutique, and they're at 1783 Plessis. And they are sister-owned, and it's all like local products.
Oh, cool.
And so I needed a gift for someone yesterday, and you know, it just kind of popped in my head that maybe I should go check them out. And so I went to check them out, and they have so much cute stuff in there. It was like hard to decide, and I'm like totally addicted to buying toques right now, and they had so many beautifully like knitted toques,
Cool.
and even ones for babies. They were so cute.
Are they do they make all the stuff, or is it just local?
It's all local makers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then they do like the sweets, I believe, are from themselves.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they have like a counter with some. I think yesterday it was mostly cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a bar. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But I had gotten this.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna put a frame on it.
That's cool.
And
that kind of stuff is great for client gifts too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that this company is a local company, like who had this local maker is Prairie Home Lettering, and they had all kinds of cute Valentine's Day cards in there, and there was just so much different stuff. They had like Stone City Coffee, and I can't even remember all the stuff. So beautiful macrame. Yeah, just a really nice gift shop. I really liked it. So I could see myself going there again and to pick up gifts, when I need something. Yeah. And lots of baby stuff. Like if I'm like, mental note, if I need a baby gift, I think that would be a good place to pick some stuff up. They had quite a few different things.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Some client gifts. So mine this week, I've got a restaurant, Deer and Almond. They're at 85 Princess. It's my boy Mandel Hitzer. He's the head chef and owner of the restaurant. He's also the guy who kind of spearheads the raw almond at the Forks.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty consistent doing it before COVID, and obviously couldn't do it through COVID, but it's back up and running now. Tickets sold out like day one. We stood in line, I think it was at 5 or 6 in the morning at the Forks. We were able to get tickets, but basically what it is, he is a world-renowned chef, great guy. He's got a great restaurant, but he has built relationships with Michelin star chefs, Michelin star restaurants across Canada and in the US as well, and really all over the world. And raw almond at the Forks, he brings these chefs out to co-host events every night. There's like a different chef, and they have a different course, different pairings. It's like a full course kind of meal and experience. And then he partners with an architecture firm to design and build this amazing building outside. And it's like the whole experience is just so cool. But Deer and Almond, I don't know if anybody out there is looking for a great date.
Did I see something about them because they were sold out? I think I saw something about them doing like a little lunch offering every day.
Yeah.
That's just all walk up.
Yeah, they're doing that. And then they're also doing, I just read today, they have like an event where they have DJs and all this kind of stuff. They're going to be having like champagne and everything. So, they've kind of made it, I guess, for people who couldn't get tickets, made it more accessible for those people. But, it's just, Mandel is such a great human being, such a good chef. And, if anybody out there is looking for a great date night, if you haven't been to Deer and Almond, you have to go. It's just such a fun restaurant. He's got like tons of neon in there. It's really bright, lots of colors. Their cocktail menu is insane. It's so good. Yeah. And that restaurant has created so many talented bartenders and chefs, including Emily Butcher, who is the head chef and owner of Nola Restaurant in St. Boniface, which is also another amazing restaurant. And she's going to be doing like a vegetarian type night at Raw Almond.
Cool.
So she's going to be cooking as one of the chefs there as well. So, But yeah, and my second business of the week is Frank Motors. I know I've shouted them out before in
Yeah.
other ways, but I love that. Taking our vehicles there, their service is so good, and they specialize in European cars and imports. So Tara's got a Mercedes, I have a Honda, and yeah, every time I go there, they always offer to give you a ride. So they don't have a courtesy car, but they have a driver who will, if you don't have somebody to pick you up, servicing your vehicle, and you bring it there, say in the morning, you can get in with this guy and he'll drive you to work, and then they'll pick you up when your car's done. So I just find their rates are really reasonable. They've always been super honest. They've always done such a great job in our cars. And yeah, just from a service point of view, they're top notch. So
yeah,
highly recommend.
I know from working in the automotive industry myself, they've always had a really good reputation.
Yeah. And they're at 575 Notre Dame. So kind of like close to, Health Sciences Center, that area. So, but yeah, that's it for me for this week.
Awesome.
So yeah, thanks everybody again for checking out another episode. And again, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Sounds good. Bye.
Have a great one.